You won't believe this. The man who once told me I wasn't worthy of being his wife ended up crawling back to me, begging while his messages were being read by my new husband. But the real twist, it all started the day he tried to break me and accidentally set me free. For 4 years, Elliot and I built what I thought was a life. The first 2 years were soft, warm, almost cinematic. We moved in together after 18 months, something my parents raised their eyebrows at, but I brushed it off because, well, it felt right. We had the same taste in shows, devoured local food spots together, and filled our weeknights with inside jokes and TikToks he'd send during lunch breaks because they reminded him of me. It was normal love, simple, comfortable, the kind that makes you feel like you've finally found your place in someone's world. When he proposed on our third anniversary, just the two of us by the lake where we had our first date, I cried. The ring wasn't extravagant, and it didn't need to be. It was perfect because he was perfect. Or so I thought. I called my mom, posted the ring picture, and started planning a summer wedding with my whole heart. But around 6 months into our engagement, something in him shifted. It started so quietly, I almost missed it. A comment about how a dress might look better if I toned up a bit. A suggestion that maybe I should try a more sophisticated hairstyle. I laughed it off because that's what you do when someone you love says something sharp but smiles afterward. Then the comments multiplied. My clothes weren't refined enough. My job wasn't ambitious enough. My thoughts weren't impressive enough. He'd question me in front of his friends, making me feel painfully small over things he framed as obvious. He even criticized my family, calling them simple and saying I needed to elevate myself if I was going to stand next to him as his wife. I wish I could tell you I immediately defended myself. I didn't. Instead, I tried to become what he wanted. I changed my hair, bought new outfits, worked longer hours, took online courses to seem cultured. I chipped away at myself piece by piece, believing that love meant adapting, improving, proving yourself. Looking back, it feels like watching someone else drown. The breaking point came 3 months before the wedding. We were finalizing tiny details when he made a comment about my dress, the one he hadn't even seen because I wanted it to be a surprise. He said his mother was worried I'd pick something expected instead of something classy enough. When I asked him what that meant, he snapped. It was like the mask fell off. He told me he'd been settling, that he wasn't sure I was wife material for someone like him, that his family was afraid I wouldn't represent him properly. And then he delivered the line that will stay with me forever, the sentence that was meant to break me in half. "You're not worthy of being my wife. I can find someone better." I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I didn't even get angry. I laughed. Not a sweet laugh, not a polite one. A raw, startled burst that came from finally seeing the reality I'd been blind to. The absurdity of it all hit me like a wave. This man, this insecure, fragile ego wrapped in expensive cologne, telling me I wasn't worthy. That was the moment something inside me snapped back into place. It was the moment I realized I had been choosing him long after he stopped choosing me. He looked furious, demanding to know what was funny, but I just shook my head and told him he was right. We shouldn't get married. Not because I wasn't worthy, because I finally understood I deserved someone who didn't make me shrink to fit beside him. I grabbed my purse, walked out of our apartment, and didn't look back. That night, at my best friend Monica's place, the tears finally came. 4 years is a long time to invest in someone, and even when the love is dying, the loss still hurts. But under the heartbreak was something I hadn't felt in months. Relief, breathing without tightness, existing without being judged. Over. The next days, Elliot spiraled through anger, guilt, manipulation, arrogance, and desperation. He told me I was dramatic, then he apologized, then he accused me of ruining his life. Then he said I'd regret it. Those next 2 weeks at Monica's felt like detoxing from a poison. I hadn't realized I'd been swallowing daily. Canceling the wedding was a nightmare. Vendors to contact, deposits to negotiate, invitations to retract. But my friends showed up like an army. Monica handled phone calls, two coworkers helped return the gifts, and my parents, though worried about small town gossip, stood solidly behind me. The hardest part came when I went back to our apartment to pack my things. I chose a day when I knew he'd be at work, but of course, life loves a dramatic twist. He walked in halfway through me, folding my clothes into boxes. The moment he saw me, his face shifted through 7 emotions in 3 seconds: begging, guilt, anger, arrogance. Like he didn't know which version would work on me anymore. He alternated between telling me I was making a huge mistake to insisting he'd forgive me if I came home. Then, as a final blow, he muttered, "Good luck finding someone else at your age." I almost laughed again. 29, according to him, was apparently 1 foot in the grave. But even in that moment, something struck me hard. He wasn't devastated that I left. He was devastated that people would know I left. His panic wasn't about losing me. It was about losing the image he carefully curated. That realization stayed with me long after I shut the door behind me. I found a small apartment across town. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. For the first time in years, I existed in a space that didn't judge me. I decorated however I wanted, cooked whatever I wanted, and rediscovered the quiet joy of being alone without being lonely. The first month was painful in an oddly slow way. I'd catch myself reaching for my phone to share a joke, or I'd wake up expecting to feel his leg brushing against mine. Grief doesn't just vanish when a relationship ends. It lingers and reshapes itself. But slowly, I started to come back to myself. I revisited hobbies I'd dropped because he called them childish. I reconnected with friends he never liked because they weren't serious enough. And I learned something powerful. The parts of me he tried to dim were the parts everyone else loved most. About 6 weeks after the breakup, mutual friends started telling me Elliot was spinning an entirely new story. According to him, I had some sort of emotional breakdown, and that's why he called off the wedding. Classic Elliot, rewriting reality to protect his ego. I thought about clearing the record, but then I realized something important. I didn't need to defend myself to people who mattered. The people who mattered already knew. Then something unexpected happened. People started reaching out. Friends, coworkers, even one of Elliot's cousins. They all said the same thing. They were proud of me for leaving. They'd noticed how he talked to me. They'd seen the cracks I was too close to see. That validation was the push I didn't know I needed. Meanwhile, Elliot's texts changed shape again, less frequent but more manipulative. He'd send things like, "Your favorite movie is playing tonight," or "Just tried that restaurant we always talked about," little breadcrumbs designed to make me nostalgic. But I wasn't biting. I didn't respond. Not once. 3 months passed, and something inside me finally shifted. I wasn't just healing, I was growing. I was becoming someone he wouldn't even recognize. Someone he once tried to convince was not enough. And then, right when I started enjoying the version of my life that didn't include him at all, destiny decided to stir things up. I met someone, not on purpose, not through an app, not in some dramatic rom-com meet-cute. Just at a birthday gathering Monica practically dragged me to because she was sick of me staying home. At Monica's brother's birthday party, I walked in expecting nothing more than awkward small talk and stale chips. Instead, I ended up on the porch swing beside a man whose presence felt like exhaling after holding my breath for years. Wyatt. Kind eyes, easy smile, no edge, no ego. We started talking in a group, but somehow ended up just the two of us, exchanging stories about childhood fears, favorite podcasts, and the stupidest things we believed as kids. There wasn't a hint of pressure, no flirting games, no silent judgments, just connection. He asked if I'd like coffee before he left town the next day. Coffee turned into lunch, lunch turned into a walk, the walk turned into dinner, and by the end of the day, it felt like I'd known him longer than the 12 hours we'd spent together. And the best part? Not once did he comment on how I should look, dress, act, work, speak, or behave. He liked me as is, something I had forgotten was even possible. Dating him felt like a slow sunrise after years of storm clouds. Long distance wasn't really long, 40 minutes apart, and we settled into a gentle rhythm. Weekends together, new restaurants, burnt dinners, a Roomba that had a personal vendetta against his couch, and moments that were imperfect but real. I didn't have to perform. I didn't have to shrink. Then, one afternoon at Target, fate threw the biggest test at me. Elliot and Daisy were strolling by the candles when we practically bumped into each other. I braced for jealousy or insecurity, but there was nothing. Absolutely nothing. Not even a sting. I realized in that split second that whatever he represented in my life was gone. Later that week, Elliot texted me, "Good to see you. You look well. Maybe we could catch up as friends?" I showed Wyatt, who simply shrugged and said, "Whatever you want to do." No pushiness, no possessiveness, just trust. I chose silence. Months passed. Wyatt and I grew together naturally. We moved in together. He renovated his old home with such care, sanding floors, repainting walls, fixing things with YouTube tutorials and stubborn determination. Living with him felt like being in a partnership instead of a project. Meanwhile, Elliot and Daisy escalated quickly, meeting families, posting curated photos, playing the perfect couple. Or so it seemed, until Daisy met someone else and left him. Karma never misses. As if on cue, Elliot started messaging me again. Little things at first, then heavier admissions. "I've been thinking about us. I made a mistake. Can we talk?" I kept my replies short. Eventually, I stopped responding altogether. Then came the night Wyatt proposed. A simple picnic at a lake. Not the lake from my past, but one that would belong only to us. He gave me a vintage sapphire ring from his grandmother. I didn't cry like I did with Elliot. I felt something deeper. Certainty. Peace. Joy that wasn't tangled in fear. I said yes without hesitation. We announced it, celebrated, began planning a small, intimate wedding, one focused on us rather than impressing anyone. And Elliot, he spiraled again. "Are you sure you're not rushing? We should talk before you make a mistake." Then the most pathetic one. "I realize now that you were the one." I blocked him. Our wedding day was imperfectly perfect. The morning rain, the rogue rose bush, the nephew announcing bathroom emergencies mid-vow, all of it just made the moment real. And while I was saying, "I do," Elliot called 3 times. Monica had my phone and silently declined each one, rolling her eyes so hard I'm surprised they didn't fall out. We honeymooned at a quiet beach town, came home to 17 missed calls and a tidal wave of messages from Elliot. That was when Wyatt finally picked up the phone himself. Calm, collected, not a drop of intimidation. "Hello, this is Ruby's husband," he said. "She's busy unpacking from our honeymoon. Is there something I can help you with?" The silence on the other end could have frozen fire. Wyatt didn't threaten him, didn't belittle him. He simply drew a boundary Elliot had never expected. "She's moved on. Please stop contacting her." And that was that. Elliot faded into the background. Months later, as we settled into our first home together, leaky dishwasher, attic squirrels, mysterious gurgling sink and all, we threw a housewarming party. Friends, laughter, warmth filling every corner. And then Elliot showed up, uninvited, holding a bottle of the same wine he once mocked me for buying. He was slightly drunk, a little shaky, and a whole lot out of place. The moment someone commented on how happy Wyatt and I looked, Elliot muttered under his breath, "She wouldn't be here without me." That's when he exploded into a bizarre speech claiming he had prepared me for Wyatt, as if tearing me down was some kind of twisted favor, as if I owed him gratitude for the scars he gave me. Wyatt stepped in, calm, unwavering. He told Elliot that my growth had nothing to do with being belittled and everything to do with being loved correctly. Elliot didn't stop. He asked me if I ever thought about what could have been. I looked him straight in the eyes and told him the truth. I don't think about what could have been because I'm too busy loving what is. You don't get to define my worth. I do. For a moment, he really heard it. I saw something collapse inside him, but then Monica delivered the final blow, announcing casually that Daisy was expecting a baby. With someone else. The look on Elliot's face was indescribable. He left shortly after, and the next morning I woke up to his last message. "I'm sorry. I hope you're happy." I didn't answer. Some conversations are meant to die, and that was the real ending. Not the breakup, not the wedding, not the housewarming party, but the moment I realized I didn't need his apology, his closure, or his recognition. Because the truth is simple. He told me I wasn't worthy. But worthiness isn't something another person hands you. It's something you remember when you finally choose yourself, and someone chooses you back without conditions. Today, I'm married to a man who sees me, values me, and never once makes me feel small. We're building a life filled with warmth, chaos, leaky sinks, future dogs, and everything that actually matters.